Okay, let's just go ahead and finish up placing all of our score tape down, and then we'll do the front and we'll move on to our cover now that we know how big to make our spines. That is one reason I never make my covers first. I make my pages, and I also, because knowing how heavy they are, very seldom do I use a 1/4 inch gusset anymore. But I mean, if it's just like a little journal or something, you can. You still need to know how many pages you decide to make. You may stop at 4. You may only want 2 on each side. So I never make my covers first. And sometimes I make my hinges at 5/8. Okay, we have our hinges, we have our pages, we just need to make our covers. I'm going to clean up, and we'll get started. For this album, you are going to want 2 packs of cardstock, 25 sheets each. There's just no way around it with the size of our cover. So it will take the 2 packs of cardstock. So let me give you the measurements. We have 2 spines that are 9 inches by 1 3/4. Then you have 2 6 by 9. You have 2 6 1/2 by 9. Yes. And 1 3 by 9. This is a long cover, and I'm making some room here. So you're going to want to start with 4 pieces of cardstock. We do need 4 that are 11 by 12, because our chipboard's 9. I want 1 inch at the top and 1 inch at the bottom. Now we're going to go ahead and connect these together using our 1/4 inch score tape. And this is going on the 11 inch side. So we want the 12 inch side as our length. Got to make sure here. Yes, 12 inches our length. We are going to connect these 4 together. And we will just go on down until we match them all. And I will try to be in camera as much as possible. Even with the wide angle, it's long, and I'll have to work kind of at an angle so you can see. The main thing is going to be the placement. And anytime there is placement, it takes a few minutes to figure out where we want everything to be. Always best to use the good quality cardstock for your cover, even if you're not going to use it inside. I mean, if you want to use a different, well, even for my pages, but your cover is the thing that's going to get a lot of wear and tear. And you need to make sure it's not going to crack or rip or tear. And the linen cardstock we sell at Country Craft Creations, you can guarantee pretty much it's not going to crack about 98%. There are those rare instances. Okay, once we get this all down, then we can grab our chipboard pieces and say, how did I lose them? And the first one I want to start with is my 3 inch, because this is a seam and it's about the middle of the paper. And I want to put it down. So we're going to lay this out. So you'll see that you have your 2 6 inch pieces. And I'm just guesstimating my 1/4 inch that I'll be putting in between. our 1 3/4, which are the pieces that are for our hinges. And then our 6.5, oops, wait a minute, oh, no, this is right, 6.5 by 9. So, oh, awesome. So it will be plenty of spaces where that seam will not get in the way of any bending parts. Okay, so we will be able to cut the ends off. I'm going to see if maybe, no, see when we scoot it down, well, that one hits pretty good. Our seam. Right, so for me, that's, oh, maybe we could have done this with, no, we can't when we spread out. There just isn't going to be enough. This is just a tentative placement because we have our score tape in between. That's going to cut it close. So I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to cut from each end. I will be using those. And I will go through the placement with you in case you get your chipboards all mixed up. Okay, so we want to start with our first piece. That is 3 inches. I'm going to grab my cutter here because I will be cutting my score tape down. So it's 8.5 by 11 inch sheets. Oh, it's supposed to be 3 inches. Oh, it is 3 inches. Okay. Well, and I just can't measure. What on earth? I'll keep that. We'll be using it. Score tape sheets just make it go by so much faster. Okay, let me grab my ruler because your quilting ruler is a nice thing to have. I know that I can place it so it's 1 inch at the bottom. And it will be straight. So once you get that lined up, I can use my arms to center this, and down it goes. I like to burnish from this side because then I know I'm not going to mark up my paper. Now we will need our 1/4 inch score tape, and this is basically the routine. We put down our chipboard, 1/4 inch in between. That guarantees that you will have plenty of room and your pages will not crack. And the chipboard is sized to have 1/4 inch gussets. So if you don't use a 1/4 inch in between, they may be a little different sizing. The next one that's going to go down is our 6 inch piece. Now I'm here, I'm just guesstimating because this does not go that length. I mean that width. Now I am going to put this over here, and the smaller one, once I get that up, I'll lay that down because I don't want that much on the edge. A little bit is okay. That much is too much. So I'll remove the backing to here, and then I'll remove the backing from this piece. Down that goes. Hey, this saves a lot on your hands. Okay. Put your ruler down so you have that 1 inch. Secure it. Holding my ruler with my forearms, I just place my chipboard up next to my score tape. burnish really well. Quarter inch. Fine. It's only 1 3/4. So I'll just fill in with my 3/8 right there. When you have things that make your cover making go by faster, it's more enjoyable, because to be honest with you, matting and doing the cover was not my favorite until I started using my score tape sheets. I started using them a couple years back, and I realized this is the only way to make a cover, and with my ruler. No more trying to score, getting everything straight. It is always straight. No more, oh, nobody will see it. Yeah, you see it. And so when it's coming out nice the way you want it, it just makes the whole process more enjoyable. Okay, so I'm going to grab my second sheet. Goes this way. This time, so I don't waste it, I will mark it with my permanent marker. And then cut it. And I always cut it a hair short so it doesn't hang over the edge. Then we'll use that for our next piece. And I prefer to just cover the whole thing like this. There's just a little at the bottom, but trust me, it's not going to come up, especially when we wrap it. We'll be using glue. Because even if you just use a smaller piece and then go around the edge, you're still using your score tape. So it doesn't matter if it's a sheet or a roll. You know, my 3/8 and stuff, I like to just go ahead and use the score tape sheet and do it all at once. Okay, let's hold this down. Okay, I just double checked. For a minute there, I had that, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. But I'm looking at my model over there that I made out of just my old junky cardstock, because I want to make sure I did not do something wrong. We're good. Now, let's go ahead at the end, mark 1 inch. And let's just cut that off now so it's out of the way and we can work on the other side. Just go lightly. You don't want to rip that. We're going to use this for tags. Now I'll turn this around. I'm so sorry. I hope you didn't just go spinning around the room. Here, that makes you dizzy. So the next piece is going to be my 9 by 6.5. Okay. Let's cut these two pieces to make one for my next big piece. See how much faster this is? Ruler. score tape. Fine. Fine. Spine is 1 3/4. Once you get that score tape backing off, also, don't let that grab anything. I dropped it on here, and it's very difficult to pick back up. You're not going to get it off, so. Okay, I'm holding this down so I can keep everything straight. Just kind of goes together like a puzzle this way. Now we do have a seam there, but the nice thing, it's not where the hinges or the moving parts, so we're okay. So I'll take my 2 leftover pieces. So what, we only grabbed, what, 2 pieces? Very good. And I'll just use my 3/8 for here. Save that other big piece for something else. Okay, my ruler at the bottom, that 1 inch. Using my arms to hold it tight and down. All right, let's burnish that well. Okay, we did this in 15 minutes, just this part. Before, it would have taken me a good 40 minutes. All right, now let's go ahead. A couple of things. Let me make some room. Where our seams are, where we connected, let's really go over it. Well, if you're using this, the linen, I go over it. And I make sure also you have a flat. Don't do it where your board or your mat ends, because you will go through your paper. Okay. Main thing is, let's just kind of break those fibers. And you have 3 of these seams. And now we can help our paper along. Now push against your chipboard. Have to hang mine over the edge of my computer screen. And I'm going to remove all the backing to the score tape that's in the center here, because it's going to help really make our hinges here nice, or gussets, or whatever. Okay, now when you bend it, you're going to see how, let me show you, be gentle. You have this square. And I love this method because no tools, no guessing, just cut that square out like so, just like you were making a box. So go ahead and crease. And when you get to your long side, if you need to crease, be gentle. I kind of went a little, I think I'm okay though. I am. So I'm just going to go add a little angle on this one. I've never done that before. So I'm going to leave that piece just for safety. I'm usually more careful than that. and right across. No special tools. You don't have to purchase anything else. And I'm cutting just to the chipboard. I mean, I'm not butting my scissors up against it. But I'm not worried about, oh my gosh, did I not leave enough room? Because what we'll do is when we bend these down, then we will double check and trim this edge if we need to. First thing I like to do is go along the top with my 3/8 of an inch score tape or your 1/4 inch score tape. Or if you want to just use all wet adhesive, that's okay too. Now some of this you won't see. I'll try and, so you're just going to do the long side and the 2 short sides. Like I said, you won't see that far edge because it's so long. And then I'll do this side. Because we have a space here, that paper, I'm going to go ahead with my 1/4 inch. And I'm going to just go along the top of the chipboard. There is no need to cut. Your score tape's nice and thin, and it's quite flexible. And this is a very long cover, but with this method, you can usually make your album cover in about 40 minutes versus over an hour and a half to 2 hours. It used to be the longest process of making albums for me. Let's just burnish everything down. Your scrapers will help the process go by faster, and also your art glitter glue. So we're going to now remove all of the score tape backing on all 4 sides. Done with that for now. Now, the secret of really getting this over your chipboard so it's nice and your paper folds really nice is to use your art glitter glue or the wet adhesive. So you'll see now I'm bringing it right along the top of the chipboard. I'm not using huge amount, but that is enough to soften the fibers. Then we're just going to kind of fold. One thing I explained too is you have to remember paper is a fiber, and no, it's not going to stretch exactly like fabric, but it will stretch. So it's important that I grab it and pull it, because I don't want there to be any spaces at the top of my album. So just grab it and pull it, and don't worry if you get a wrinkle, because it'll grab into that score tape. And then when you get towards this end, it's just going to lay right over. It's so nice because you basically conditioned it with the glue. Now I'm going to go along this edge, and when I pick it up, you're going to see a nice, smooth, no bumps, nothing edge, just nice and smooth. Okay, let's turn it upside down. Let's repeat. Art glue. And you notice how straight your chipboard is using that ruler. Okay, I'm just going to use something blunt, and it doesn't have to be a bone folder. It can be your fingers. You just want to go up on that edge, bring that glue over to the chipboard. And you'll see it kind of smush. If you don't, just add a little bit more. That's what makes it nice and smooth at the top. Now grab around that hinge. I don't start at the very end. Grab and pull. I mean, I'm pulling to where my hand, it's feeling a little tired when I pull. There we go. I'm going to check my edge. See, it's all down tight. Now, when we get to the edge, be careful because you don't want anything to, you want to fold it over. One thing I'm looking for, does this paper stick over the edge? And even with my little boo-boo there, I am safe. I'm going to just push that little piece in that I cut because I'm going to keep it there. The glue will hold it down and we're good. It would have been too short. Good thing I caught that. If for some reason you want to miter this a little bit, you can. Do not cut. Put your finger there. You need that to stay square. See how that looks? Never cut at your corners. When you cut your corners at those angles on these books, then that's when you have to be quite precise. Okay, let's bring that. Now these are, of course, easier. So I just kind of, I'm pushing very tightly and over it goes. And you might have some glue squeeze out the edge. We will go back and make sure everything's burnished down. Again, you have a very nice smooth edge. Let's go ahead and fold over. This one's a little long. This one just needs to be straightened out. So here's what I'm doing. Leaving that square edge. Do not cut your corner. Bring your scissor up and angle. When you cut into your corner, that's when you made a hole. Make sure you leave that square edge. Even though that's a little crazy, it's going to be under paper, so it will not be seen. I'll just use my hand. All right, we pull that over. When you're sewing and you're upholstering, these are some of the techniques that I would do, and I still do when I refinish my furniture. You want to pull it just like you would your fabric. All right, let's go along these edges. Now, this is where our score tape is our helper. So, you have your chipboard. Let's get our paper. So basically, I'm just concentrating on this piece of chipboard, and I want my cardstock over the edge, and then I'm going to concentrate on this side. And you know your paper and what you can and can't do. So I'm pushing quite hard, but be gentle. You don't want to tear it. But I want it to sit over the edge, and I want to squish that in because I want a nice, see how it grabs? And now it won't buckle. It's already hooked down into the score tape, and you can actually bend it backwards. And I need to straighten these up a little bit. Okay, now my chipboard's straight. Don't be afraid of those hinges. Just be gentle with them. and smooth them out so they're not bumpy. And there we go. Okay, the second one. Let's get our cardstock over that edge of our hinge and then over on this edge. And I like this. It's the cheapest bone folder there is. It's the Fiskars. But it has this nice flat edge. And it's perfect for your hinges. See? Let's do the big 3-inch hinge. But first we're going to get our chipboard. Our cardstock nice and squared up with the edges of our chipboard. Come along. And that side and that side. And then over to that side. Very nice. Sometimes it'll just grab right down. Oh, and then sometimes it's already nice and smooth. That's always nice. See, by the last one, it's kind of already taken shape. It's really neat how it just seems to do that. Okay, let's fold up our book. And you know what I have done? I just noticed that. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I really didn't do that, did I? Oops. I did. 6.5. I put the wrong one there. 6.5, 6. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. This is supposed to be 6. This is supposed to be 6.5. Okay, yours is probably absolutely perfect. Mine would be if I had not put them on wrong. So, wow, I won't redo this, but I will fix it and come back and cover it. What I'm going to have to do is cut mine apart. And yours, hopefully, should be absolutely perfect because you have the 3-inch, 6.5, 6.5, 6, and 6. And I'm not sure what on earth I was thinking. So we've got that one's right and that one's right. These two are reversed. So I will get these guys fixed. And so I've got to turn them this way. So let's double check our fit if I had done it correctly. So I can double check it with you. And I will go back and fix this, but I know that would have been the perfect fit. Remember when I talked about things being upside down? So I'm sure yours right now is perfect. See, that will be when I get this all fixed. And then we will cover the inside. So if you did yours absolutely perfect, you can be very, very proud of yourself. So I will be back. For the cover, you're going to want 2 hinges that are 1 3/4 by 9, 2 at 1 3/4 by 9, 1 3.5 by 9, 2 6 by 9, and 2 6.5 by 9. So for this album, you are going to want 2 packs of your cardstock. You won't use it all, but it'll be pretty close. This is not a super conservative album, and I do apologize. And we may need 4 pieces here, or a piece. So let's go ahead and put our first 3 together. They are 11 inches by 12. I like an inch at the top and an inch at the bottom of my cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and add my score tape. Now, I've done quite a few videos, so if I seem to move a little fast, I apologize, because I do the cover video in each tutorial. So if you've watched any others, then you've seen it. And I'll try and explain it, but also keep moving. So I just attach each edge with my 1/4 inch score tape. We're going to lay out our chipboard, and then we will go through and see if we need that 4th piece. Or I have some scrap pieces, or more at the top. Okay. Once we have those down, let's start with the spine. So the spine, the back of the book is 3.5 inches. Okay. Now we're going to put our 6 inches at each side. Our spines at the end, and our 6 inches on each side. Now we will have a 1/4 inch in between. So I'm spacing this out to see, and I think we will be fine. We won't quite have an inch. Oh, but if we even have 3/4 of an inch, we are okay to wrap. And that kind of avoids us from getting that other piece out. Like I said, we need a 1/4 inch. Ooh, that's going to be way close. On my far left hand here, because I do want enough to wrap my cover nicely. Okay, I think we're okay. Yep, that's an inch. That's about an inch, so we're okay. As long as I make sure my spine is about there. So on the spine piece, I'm going to just make a mark. Okay, it's catching. There we go. So I want to start with the spine, and I'm going to be using my 8.5 by 11 inch score tape sheets because it's so much quicker. So I know that this is 3.5 inches. I just cut it a hair short. I use about 3 or 4 sheets. And when I do my album covers, only because this is so much quicker, more convenient, and it makes it a lot more enjoyable. Okay, using my ruler, it's what I will mark at the bottom with to make sure I'm at an inch. And then it's big, so I can use my arms to hold it in place. Okay. And blue is a little hard to see. And I will do all my scoring on the back of my chipboard so I don't mess up my front cover, sometimes with dark colors. You know how that works. Now using my 1/4 inch. So this is what we'll do each time. The 1/4 inch goes down, and it is our spacer. Okay, my 6 inch. And I want to measure them each time because that's my 6 1/2. Or you can mark them, which is probably the best thing to do, so that no mistakes are made, because I did make this. And I did make the mistake of putting the 6 1/2 here, and it was just heartbreaking. I mean, the 6, see, I almost did it again. The 6 inch where it didn't belong. The 6 inch comes down here. And that's one thing I want to check now, because we've got plenty of room. I may, just over here, I'll be putting my chipboard on top of the score tape, and I'll show you. So for my 6 inches, I took one sheet and cut it for the 6 inch. This is to go on my 6 inch. This is the smaller piece. Let me put it where it belongs. I did cut my 6 1/2 inch pieces. There we go. So I cut it to fit already. And I'm going to remove the backing, and I'm not worried about the little bit of space here where there's no score tape, because we have plenty of coverage. Okay, line your ruler up that inch at the bottom, holding it with your hands, however you're comfortable. Butt it up against that score tape so that you have a nice, perfect, straight chipboard piece. Spine goes down next, and I'll just grab my score tape sheet, and I'll go ahead and cut. Actually, I'll go ahead and cut them both now at about 1 3/4. So we have them all ready. Oh, score tape, 1/4 inch. And our 1/4 inch score tape, and then our 6 inch piece is what goes down next. Now, one thing I want to check is my space here. So I'm only going to have about 3/4 of an inch. I am going to go ahead and overlap a hair onto my score tape, because this is also smaller, and we're okay if we don't have the full 1/4 inch space. We need a good space so our chipboard doesn't crack, but that is good enough when you're working with a smaller, when it's not so thick. That's our 6-inch piece. Grabbing my ruler. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that at 16 and a whole number. Oh yeah, we're almost there. So very cool. It'll be about just 1/8 of an inch shorter than that 1 inch. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can go ahead and add that extra piece of paper on, but that's plenty. Okay, 6.5 goes there. 6 goes, okay, 6. Now I'm so paranoid because I messed that up on the other one after getting it all done, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But I put the 6. This side was right, that side was reversed. Ruler, 1 inch. Holding the ruler tightly in place. Okay, score tape. And our fine piece for our hinges. Okay. That'll be fine. That's okay. We're a little over. I'm going to have a little gap there, but it will be just fine. And our 6-inch piece. And again, I have about 7/8 of an inch. So that's good. So this was the other half of my 8.5 by 11 inch score tape sheet. One, I cut the 6.5, and then this one for the 6. And this one I'm just going to cut my other score tape piece in half. There we go. I'll remove this backing, and then I'll place this down so it can overlap. And our ruler. Oh, and our score tape. Oh, I need to pay attention. Okay, once again, this is a nice little spot. I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to overlap just a hair. And just a tiny bit. Give me more room down there. Now, I just want to double check. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Much better than the last one. Cool. Okay, now we can get to wrapping our chipboard. Okay, what we want to do next is remove the backing to the score tape. It makes it easier at this point. You can still get it off if you forget and add your adhesives to the edges, but this is easier. Okay, for the cover, I'm going to use my 1/4 inch and my 3/8 of an inch. So I like to take 3/8 of an inch around the top, so you won't see all of it in the camera because some's to my left and some will be to the right, and you'll see now how long your cover is. But I'm going around all 4 sides and moving things to make room. I'll try and turn it so I can show you. There we go. If you are using a wet adhesive, there we go, you can go ahead, excuse me, just the change in weather and the allergies are kicking up, so I don't mean to cough in the camera. Try not to. If you're using a wet adhesive, of course you don't want to go ahead and add it to your whole perimeter. I have used my art glitter glue. It works great. On bigger items and covers, I just prefer the score tape. I feel it gives you just a little bit more control and coverage, but I will be using some art glitter glue in the construction here in just a moment. We'll go back and make sure everything's down. There, move that score tape. Give me some more room. And I'll use my scraper just to go all at once and make sure everything is secure. Now we want to bend up our chipboard and push it against the paper so you sort of help it get started. Sorry about hitting the camera. This is pretty long. So I like to bend it all the way over if you can and get your creases there, because that's going to be our markings for cutting. A little bit harder, but you still can do it. And all I'm wanting to do is crease right at that edge, because I'm going to use those as my marking for cutting the chipboard. Not cutting the chipboard, cutting the cardstock. Okay, I've got to move my water. It's making me nervous. If I spill it on my cover, I will cry. And we should have done this first. I apologize, but you're going to be able to see it from this side really well. You'll see how creasing it has made this square. And I should have done this first. What I'm going to do is just cut through, just up to that corner. I'm going to cut a square out. And I usually do this before. I don't know why I put the score tape on first. But see, you'll see your square on the opposite side if you put your score tape. Or I usually cut this first. What I'm doing is, you'll also see kind of a score line from the edge of your chipboard, so I'm cutting to that score line. And then to that score line. And I'm making a square. Doing this enables me to know exactly that my chipboard is going to be covered nicely. I don't have to use any special tools. Go to the score line that's been created this way. And then this way. It leaves the perfect amount. I'm going to try this one, cutting the correct direction. It leaves the perfect amount to cover your chipboard without you having to worry about using a special tool. But if you like your tools, by all means, please use them. I'm not advocating not using them. I just know that we have some beginners, and you know, sometimes we don't have the money to go out and buy all these newfangled tools. And we get told they're necessary, but they're not. There's not. Because people were creating these books long before all these tools. But these tools do help other small business owners. So that's your decision. Sorry. I'll shut up now. Okay, let's remove the backing to all of our score tape. We love helping small businesses. And now this side. We're using that, so I'm going to put a few things away to make some room. Okay. With my art glitter glue, I go along the edge of my chipboard. Just resting the tip right up against there. And if you don't have art glitter glue, any wet adhesive will work. But this one is fabulous. This is going to help soften the fibers in the paper because it's damp. And it's going to make for a beautiful band, and it's also going to make your chipboard very nice at the top. So spend a few minutes. We'll just kind of bring our paper up. And I like to go with a bone folder, something that you know will not damage your paper. Let's push that edge up. And you'll see the glue coming over the top. That's also going to help when we cover that top of the chipboard so that we don't have any gaps or areas that did not. You know how you cover chipboard and then there's a space there, maybe because the chipboard was crooked or it wasn't perfectly straight? Well, let me tell you, this will help in case your chipboard's not perfectly straight, because that's really not something you can fix once we get our covers on. Now, paper is a fiber, and it does have a little stretch to it, even though you don't feel it. Pull it over as hard as you can to ensure it is covering the top of your chipboard. When you know it's where you want it and it looks great, go ahead and just push that down. And see, you will notice it'll just lay down when you get to the last part. Almost perfectly. I'll pick this up. Finish smoothing that out, and you'll have a nice, beautiful top. Now, with some of your cardstock, it doesn't matter what you use, you may have what looks like some little rough areas on your seams. And if it bothers you, if you're using the linen, it might even just kind of pop up a layer. All you do is sand it off, and it's gone. Very lightly, because you're working with a lot of layers here with your cardstock. But it's going to happen because you've got like the 2 layers of paper. Okay, let's take our art glitter glue. Or your red adhesive. Now, you know, if you're not using art glitter glue, just know your adhesive, and if it's going to be really wet. Don't use a lot. I'm just going to use my hand. I like to use my hand. I can get it underneath there because it's so long. I can feel the edge of the chipboard. Bring it up. Get it started. Pick a spot, not on the end, and there we go, and just pull it down. And I'm pulling quite tight. I'm grabbing it and pulling it because I want to fill it over that edge of chipboard. Oh, and then that side will go down for you. When you get to your end pieces now, because we've got our sides done, this is where you're going to be able to check your sizing. So see now, this is going to hang over the edge just a little bit. So is this one. I'm going to trim this corner, but I want to show you something. When you see this corner, do not cut it. Do not touch it. That's when we run into problems. I lay my finger there. See how I left it square? And if you feel it's going to be too long, then you just trim it using the edge of your chipboard as your guide. See? It should meet that edge. So when you bend this over, and if it's still a little bit too long, you can still trim it. But when you cut into that corner at an angle is when you get holes. But leaving it square, so square, just pick a spot and then end it there. See, now it's going to fit perfect. So I can check both sides. This one's going to hang over the edge. So one thing I want to do is, see that score line? I didn't quite get rid of that score line. So I'm going to butt my scissors up against my chipboard. I'm going to cut straight up. Now I know it's going to be even with the chipboard right here. Now leaving my corner alone so it's somewhat square. That's how I'm going to ensure I'm not going to have a hole. Now if you still feel you have a piece and it's not perfectly aligned, it should go in a straight line all the way up. Okay, except for the piece you mitered off. So take your finger and just go straight up. You should have that straight up piece and then you won't have a problem. And you can cut into there without the fear of ruining your corner. There we go. Or without having a hole or being the proper distance. You read a lot that says, you know, 1/4 of an inch. Chipboard, like, but you know, the proper distance is really what's covering your chipboard and how the paper's been cut. Now this one's pretty easy. Actually, I don't even have to pull. It's there and it just wants to bend. So it's like having putty in your hands versus frustration on your mind because your corners are not covered, your paper won't bend correctly, and now you should have a nice smooth. So your tools are the ruler to keep things straight and your art glitter glue. Again, see, I can see this is going to hang over the edge. Whoops, getting the camera. This side's not too bad, but I'm going to take my scissors. I want a straight line, but that kind of intersects into my straight line. So I'm going to straighten it, leaving that corner alone so it's square. I will just angle, and it's perfect. That one isn't too bad, but I do want to take just a little off. Leaving my finger there, I want that to stay square. Okay. The nice thing about using the palm of your hand, you can feel that it's against that chipboard. And if you go over it quite a few times, it's just going to bend. So we have cement. Grab your bone folders. Let's move the mouse so we don't interfere. Okay. Now we need to push the top layer of paper down. We want it to grab the chipboard. And we want to cover this edge of chipboard. So you're really concentrating on the edge. Then you want to cover this edge of chipboard. I'm taking it and literally butting it up against there the best I can. I love this cheap bone folder Fiskars. It's one of the less expensive. And you can get them at Joann's or Michael's and use your 50% off because they have this nice blunt end. Once again, concentrate over on this chipboard and then to the piece to the right. And you want it to grab a hold of your score tape. And then you have this. You'll see that we haven't indented this one. So now we have this indent and it's perfect. You should be able to bend this over, straighten up your edge just gently to make it smooth so you don't have any ridges or bumps. And don't be afraid to touch this edge. I know a lot of times we are. And if it's not straight, move it up a little bit. It's just like you're redefining the score line. Now my chipboard's perfectly straight. Paper, it's paper. And it's going to do what you tell it to do to a certain extent. Of course, it does have its limitations. But for the most part, you can encourage it to play nice and do what you want it to do by how we score and how we define our score lines in our, like here, we've put the score tape because we have defined to our paper, we want you to stick down in there nice. We want you to lay nice. We want our book to look like it was professionally made. See, now I have nice smooth ridges. I don't have anything bumpy. And we'll just move now to this one. See, you can, if you go really slow, you'll see how your paper will push out a little bit. And I'm not really pushing, I'm just gliding. And you can watch how your paper will push out and smooth that edge completely. We'll use the weight of the hinge to help us on this one. Okay. See the difference where if I was just to leave it, I don't know if you can see. Now that's defined and that really isn't. It's just sitting on top. And when you do yours, you'll see the difference. Because you're basically making that groove. Which is also going to help when we put the top layer on. Pin this down and over. I'm perfectly straight. I'm happy with that. There we go. Push it this. I turned it around so it's easier to work on the smaller ends. And if you have to, you just push up the opposite side so you can get it around that edge of chipboard. And the linen paper that we sell and that I use, see, it's many different layers. It's like a fabric. It almost has a grain to it. So that's why I'm able to push a little bit harder. And when you go to the website, the linen cardstock is listed under artisan cardstock. There we go. Oh, it's like perfect. And then again, because we left that space, we can really move our cover without any issues or sounds of cracking. Okay, let's bring our book up. Well, fix that one later. It's getting close to be time for new clothespins. And that is how your album cover will look. So you will have this nice square. Let me turn it this way. There we go. And then you'll have these two guys. And now we can do the inside and put our hinges on. But I like to always add my clothespins and check to make sure that things are square. The inside we need to cover. And I do use my linen papers. And our cover is 9 inches. So you're going to want to cut, I have a scrap, so just have one in, let's see. Oh, I have 2 scraps. Just have 1 sheet of paper in reserve, but we're going to cut 3 pieces that are 8 7/8 by 12. So I'll get mine cut. Time, and we want 8 7/8 by 12. And to let you know in the video, so if you're new to my videos, my cutter to the left is the Dolly 550, and it cuts your chipboard just like it does your paper. Well, you have to push a little harder, but it's fabulous. I do get questions, so I thought I'd better let you know. Right now, again, just like when we did our chipboard, let's lay out our paper. I'm checking for 2 things. Did I cut them the same, top and bottom in length? If not, I'm going to have to trim them. Let me show you. Because it happens. We will need a little bit of overlap. Okay, so we only do need 3 sheets, which is awesome because we can start on each end. And I like being able to start on the ends. Then I have that nice smooth. And then our centerpiece will just come down here. We won't cut this. Let's lay these down. We'll measure what we need. Then we can cut our 3rd piece. Now, I am going to use my score tape sheets again. Again, this makes the process so much faster. If you are using your art glitter glue, that's fine. Just make sure you do put a strip right there and right there on an album this large. Score tape, I go all one direction. I don't want a piece of score tape this way and accidentally get stuck and jangled up in there. That makes sense. These are 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to put it at the top, leaving about a 1/16 of an inch. The backing is off, but I'm just going to push down on one corner. Don't worry if it wrinkles, it smooths right out. It's score tape like that. There we go. Now, even though I used your score tape sheets because they are 8.5 by 11, we will have to use just 2 pieces of our score tape from the roll. Make sure that piece is down. Or if you have scraps left. Because we want our edges covered. The edges are what's important at this point. And here I'll just put a 1/4 inch. Trim it off. Now it's easier to trim. I did do a cover video, just a cover, 8.5 by, it's quite a large one. It goes with our design team member Jackie's album. I did it to go with her tutorial because she only explained it, so I did the tutorial. And I explained how if you're nervous using your score tape sheets, how you can just release some of the backing. So if you are nervous, go ahead and go check out that video, and I show how to just release the corner and put it down. But don't be afraid of it once you get used to it. It's super sticky, yes, but I got my fingers back there. I'm going to leave about 1/8 to a 1/16 inch border. And I do want it to be straight as possible. Nothing hanging over any edges up here or on the sides. Main thing is to get those edges down. Beautiful cover. You'll be so proud of yourself. No lines to show through when you use the score tape sheet. No glue marks, no matter what glue you use, or there's a possibility. Need to get it away from that blue. There we go, so I can see. You're going to cut your time probably in half with the score tape sheet, so they're worth it to me with the amount of covers I make. And that's a lot of times designers, when they get to the cover, they're like, oh, I did other videos. Go look at those. It becomes a chore when you don't have the right things. Now, see, this is pretty close, so I'm going to have to remove the backing a little bit so I can put my 1/4 inch down. It is very important that your edges are covered, but covers can be tedious. Who are we kidding? I used to hate them, but now I'm like, oh, I have score tape sheets. There's not a problem here. Saves your hands, saves your time. You will love it. Once again, we want to check our fit. Eyeballing my edges. These are a great help. They're stronger than the roller type, and see this, there's no marks. Only marks you see are my hinges, right there and right there. Now for our center ruler. I know I want mine to overlap an inch. There's no rule, it's just what I prefer. An inch over. So I'm going to cut my paper 11. Oh, is it really 11 and a half? I guess we almost do need that other 12-inch sheet. Oh, we do. It's our third. What am I saying? So I'm going to cut it down to 11 and a half. Yep, 11 and a half. And we already cut it 8 7/8. Now, I'm checking my fit top to bottom to make sure our length matches. I did. So all in all, to make an album this size, I've used about 6 sheets of score tape with leftovers. And I use all my leftover pieces. And I still have tons on my rolls, which is important. Then I have it for other projects. We need to put a little around the perimeter. So I'm just going to remove the whole thing. Just put my 1/4 inch down. Ah, nope, I want you on the edge. Sometimes it's like static, it just grabs it. All right, so just eyeballing about that inch to side. I'm going to match the bottom. And down it goes. All right, let's start down here. You should be able to see a little bit where it starts. Using my finger, and then my bone folder, gently. Define it. Now see, it's already grabbed the bottom end of my score tape. Now I have that nice seam. Now, even though it's tight, don't force it. And go over a little bit more, but not all the way. start with my finger. I'm kind of pushing on both sides of my chipboard so I know it's, see how it kind of wraps around. You'll see it as you're working on it more than you will here on the camera. Be gentle. Open that back up. This one's big. I'm going to go ahead and get them both, there we go, defined so I can have some bending room. Then use the weight of your chipboard to help. I'll go this side now. And once it looks great, you can go ahead and attach it to that cardstock, or the score tape on the bottom. And over it goes. Okay, there it is. I don't know if you can see that on camera. It's how it will define when you push against that chipboard. My edge down. Okay, you might have to work it a little bit because it's going to be stiff. Open this. You don't want a stiff album cover. And there we go. See how beautiful your seams will be, or your spaces there? Magnets. Okay, we've just had a brand new package sitting out here. There we go. Now this little guy will take a little more, but if you do not, let me show you, if you do not want to have magnets, or you're going to use ribbon, you can do it a couple of different ways. Your ribbon can go on the sides here and here and then tie together. You can start it back here in the middle of your 3.5 inch spine and bring it around to the front to tie. You can use magnets and tie. You can do, you can also, maybe we will change this. Okay. I can use these, but I'm still going to want to use magnets. Grab my clothespins. And I really was, let's see, hoping I could use these. But it still would be something that I would put on last because of the because of the, so even if I decide to use those, it will be, I don't use the brads. I will actually use E6000. I will use the brads as decoration bid. So it will be on the paper and we will see what happens at that point. We'll know at the end. Those must have been from a totally different set. So let's grab our magnets. We kind of have an oddball here from another set. They don't always match. Wow, well these guys aren't even matching. Let me put this aside for a minute. They didn't. I mean, it's no big deal. We just put, there we go, like two negatives together instead. Because sometimes they mismark them. Nope. Nope. Not even the pluses are grabbing each other. Okay. We won't play with those. They're not playing nice. I do need to find one. There we go. Play with those later. Now, I like to have two in the front. And one more towards the back. Okay, now we want to, before we grab those together, even though we can take them off, we want to make sure things are where they are supposed to be. There we go. And then you can go in and push down where your magnets are. And don't worry, if you've put magnets down and you don't like the way it closed, you can take your magnets off. Just use like a spatula or a pick to get them loose. They'll come up. Let's check our sizing. Perfect. Okay, let's, oh no, we might still need that. Let's grab our hinges. So, our hinges are going to sit in our 1 3/4 inch space because that's where we measured where our pages need to go. I eyeball the first one and then I kind of measure the second one so that we have them pretty much in the same spot. Just in that little area, I want to put a little adhesive. I don't usually advocate using your art glitter glue along the edges of your score tape. I've had mine, because art glitter glue is a liquid, I've had it lift my score tape. But as long as you just use a really thin line, you'll be fine. Again, I'm just eyeballing top to bottom. And here's the reason. Now you can see why I do my hinges this way. Say something happened to the cover, I destroyed it accidentally, I needed to get my pages out. I could rip this out and I could get my pages out. Or maybe I just need to get the pages out to fix the cover and then I can put it back down. If I have pieces that extend, then I'm kind of stuck. I have to tear the whole book apart. I'd like to use now my smaller Teflon bone folder, because with this thing it's very blunt, very plasticky, well, Teflon, and you are guaranteed basically no damage because there's nothing sharp except for on this end. I shouldn't say that. Just make sure it's stuck down really well. Move the mouse so we don't have any problems. Now, it's over here on this side. Taking my quilting ruler, I like to just get an idea and set it. It's getting to be time. I actually have this little line right here. And that's the line I'm using that sits on the edge of my book. And that tells me where I need to put my hinges. So that they're sitting the same as the other ones. Before I put this down, I will go back. Like I said, I'm not used to this mouse, and it keeps turning my... Okay. Along with things falling on the floor. Then I'll go back and measure it before we put it down completely. Okay. There we go. There we go. 2 perfect sets of hinges. Our pages. And we will be doing our inside, but I like to put my pages down at this point. So we made, for this side, I made this one, oh yeah, we did make this one. That's going to be on our other side. So I like to start with the back. There we go. Postcard goes that way. Okay, let's open our page, starting with this last hinge. And as long as it fits, you don't have to do anything and you're comfortable with the fit, I always try the fit first and then put it on. Now, I'll show you what I do to make my pages lay flat with nothing special. First of all, just kind of push your hinge back a little bit, because you don't want to put your hinge straight on, because you're telling it to stand straight up for one thing. Now, your page is going to fit perfectly at the top, nice and snug, perfectly at the bottom. And your score tape will challenge you, especially with that bottom piece. Because you have a nice snug fit. You know what? I can't remember. I'm going to put this to the back. I think that's the problem. It's the way my hinge just are. You know, where we mitered them, it's grabbing that edge. So if I'm putting mine backwards to yours, I apologize. I think I might be. There we go. Fits much nicer. It's because we mitered and it's catching on the edge. You put it on. Now you're going to lay it down. And you're going to have a little bit of a space. I pushed it down. There we go. So I want it to hit the edge of my score tape. Boy, this one's being funny. There we go. Lay it down. I've got a little bit of matting here coming up where I didn't get the edge. I know I was getting tired that night. Much better. Then I'm going to push it this way, open my book. And now you have a page that wants to lay down and not stand straight up. Okay, I knew that one was in the front. Now we might need to take that off. Okay, kind of use all your fingers to grab a hold of what you need to. Things will move. And the thicker your album pages are, the more reluctance they want to go on today. And I know some of it's my score tape. Okay. It's this backing. Lay it down, making sure we're even top to bottom. Man, this is fighting me a lot today. I don't know why. Don't usually have this issue. I do have to say, this is pretty sticky score tape. And your flaps. You can really push. And be careful with those flaps. We haven't finished matting them. We're getting there. We're getting there. Slow but sure. Now I know this is my front. This is where we started. Okay, I know it's going to fit. We're not going to try. I left that hanging, and that's, I think, some of my frustration with trying to fit it with my score tape backing on. This is a really sticky roll. I don't usually make excuses, but it really is sticky. I can tell just by touching it. And just by putting it on. So I don't think my pages are going anywhere. See how it will pop up a little bit? Very nice. Now let's do this side. Okay. I know it seems like it's going to open different. It is going to open different because we want this to be our last page. And then this one sits there and this one sits. This definitely does not go there. It goes over here. But we'll leave it off. Okay, so this one is actually, because I want it to lay down. Oh, actually, it won't matter. So we're going to start back here now. I have to warn you, this one is our really super, super thick page. No, it may give us just a little issues. Okay, that's the back. It's pretty tight on that end. That's our big waterfall. There. Much better. I'll tell you, black and navy blue can be some of the hardest to see. Well, we'll just be patient here. And we will continue to get it on the hinges. But it is a super thick page, so you'll just have to work it. We'll have to work it down. And just be patient with it. Usually the pages go on much simpler. But it's not that way today. Okay, I did it off camera and I probably reversed it, but that's okay. The waterfall will be on the back. It did not want to go on. So now I better turn off the camera so nothing was said. So the next one, hopefully the pocket's going to face this way. If your pages will not go on the way you want them to, just turn them around. Because both of them, they all look nice. And I think really do that this score tape is not only super sticky, it's not letting me, but our pages are just nice and heavy, which is good. But wow, really fighting me today. And then our last one, which has a really cute mat, and it's very thick. Again, mine just seems extremely tight. So it's going on whichever direction it will go. Making sure everything's the right orientation. So we did make this to go down. Yes. Okay. Let me take our little closure off. See, that wants to open. So just hang on to your open pieces. And hopefully we can put it on. If you've watched my other tutorials, you know that I usually get my pages right on. For some reason, where I have mitered that corner, it's where it's just fighting every time I try to put it on. Okay, this score tape is like overly sticky, which is good to a certain extent. They're kind of ridiculous. I'm going to do something. I'm going to cut that edge off so that it will slide on. Obviously, that tape's not going to let it go. I need to make sure, there we go, both sides. I'm really sorry that this one has been a little more, but I'm sure maybe that's some of your struggles, so it does happen to everybody. Okay, magnet, and I think, yeah, these were going to go inside of there. Oh, he's already there. So actually we're going to start with the waterfall. So when you open your book, which is really cool, it will come this way, and then we'll just turn the pages like so. Okay, now we can start on the inside of our covers. Okay, I'm going to match the inside. I chose these colors, and they are 6.5 by 8 7/8, 3 3/8 by 8 7/8. And then the frames that we sell in our store that are these, the base is 5 by 5, the top is 5 by 5 with the 4 by 4 opening. These are sold in a set. You'll get 2 of these, and you get a 4 by 6 piece of the plexi or the acrylic, and you'll also receive, that fits in there. There's actually 2 because I use them in the tutorials to make shakers. And I just need to grab my other sheet. I will be using one of our new 12 by 12 sheets and cutting it because I don't want to break into the frame. But you can make, I did on the penny paper dolls. So let me give you an example. This was the closure on Penny Paper Doll, and I show how to make this one too. So this is our bigger 5x7 frame. So you can have a lot of fun with these frames. You can make them and magnetize the back. And these are our new 12x12 acrylic sheets, and they are 12x12, and they are extremely heavy. It's hard to see. I will be using that. And then instead of using 2 of the frames, I'm only going to use 1 because I want this to be a frame that we can put a picture in. So let me just cut this down to show you what size picture. So we've got a 4x4 opening. And I would cut my frame down to, my picture to 3 3/4, and it will slide in. This is just to show you how that will work. And these will be on each side of our inside back cover on the 6.5 inch side. So let's go ahead and cover these inside first. Now, a couple things you can do different. If you want to be able to take this frame out, this is why I haven't put my mats down. You can use a large magnet here, and you can use a large magnet on your frame. You can set it down, and that's what I'll be doing. So I wanted to give you the heads up first, because we need to put our magnet down here before we mount this. We need the magnet underneath. And I'll grab my large magnets, which keep hiding on me. And we want to get these placed. The frames are pre-cut, and they're so inexpensive. With the acrylic, you get 2 frames. The backing, I want to say they're $2.99. That's pretty close. So basically, this is going to just go on my frame. Then I'll be able to take it off. That way, too, if I want to display it somewhere, I can. So I don't need the backing. We are going to cover this because we want a nice covered edge. And we'll do all that right after. We're going to have one on each side, but I'll do this side first, and then we'll mat and we'll get this down because we want to, we're going to want to make sure our sides are the same. And then you'll be able to remove this from your book if you want. And you can actually put it on a little easel or display it if you do decorating for January, like with snowmen or for Christmas, then you can take it out. And you can also easily change the picture that way. Sometimes it's easier when we can take it out of our book. Now, you can also use these frames, show you, on your pages the exact same way. They are a lot of fun. And even, for the cost, you're going to buy the chipboard. And the frames pre-cut, they're cut by a laser, so they're nice and straight and smooth. And you know that they're perfect. There's no, like when I did the Penny's Paper Doll in the tutorial, I show how to cut it by hand, but it really did, it's not 100% straight. This way they are 100% straight. So let's go ahead and grab our art glue. And I have to remember to put the pin in between uses. I'm going to use just a little bit more glue. This back cover. once we get that glue all locked in, and our centerpiece, yeah, that's right, I'm turning it over. This one we didn't use on the pages this side, so I thought it'd be nice to bring it into the book. Make sure if you have a pattern specific, it's going up and down the correct direction. So I just need to check my phone. It keeps going off. Okay. Now I'm going to close my book so we can work on this side. Now on camera, I will just do one of the frames because you'll do both of them. Oh, identical. Get that piece off. We did not put down the magnet. Haha. Good thing I realize that. That's our other frame. Okay. Okay, I can put this one there. Oof. I'm glad I didn't burnish that down. Grab your frame and your magnet. And if not, I would have just made it permanent. So one would be permanent, one would not have been, but it's really not what I wanted. Grab my quilling ruler. Just need the bottom piece straight. Move the backing. There we go. All is good. Now, you need to re-glue. So because it's dark glitter glue, my paper's not a mess and all wrinkly. But it has started to dry. So I was saying, I will do one frame on camera, and you'll do the other one exactly the same way. Okay. Check that magnet out. There we go. Now let's go ahead and do our frames so we can close our book up. And I'm using this one on the outside, and I've cut this 6 by 6. And I've cut my backing for the solid board at 6 by 6. So we want to cover this just like we would if we were making an album cover, but I'm just going to use all adhesive, and I'm using my bottle. I have one bottle I take the tip off because sometimes you just need a thicker line. Now, I'm not being super particular. I'm just going to eyeball. So I have about, because I cut this 6 by 6, this is 5 by 5. You could actually go 6.5 by 6.5 if you want an inch. I felt that the 1/2 inch on these are fine. And I'm using our antique lace. Now the thing with this is you will, and I will have the exact count. You're going to need more than what I started out with on this collection. And we are actually working today, and we have the granddaughters coming into work, the teenagers, so you might hear some background noise pretty soon. But we've got to get our tutorial done, and I need my scissors. And I can't find my scissors, so I'll use my alternates. Again, I'm going to cut out my corners, just like we did on our covers. Are the kids here? Okay. And we'll continue to cut this one. And this one, just like you did when we made our cover. This just gives it a nice finished edge, so it looks nice inside your book. But for this, I will just use art glue to adhere, because these are nice little areas, easy to work with. Oh, there's my scissors. Yay. I'm telling you, I need a couple pairs of those. Whoops, get glue everywhere. Again, just rub your hand up there. You still want a nice fit. So we're going to be trimming this up just like we did. Like I showed you on the big cover, same thing. It needs to be the same width. And along that edge. Push that, make sure it is covered. Let's do some trimming up here. Trim there, just a hair. See, and now I can trim right on that chipboard because it is a little close. Leaving your corner alone, I'm going to go ahead and cut those corners off, but make sure you do not cut it at the corner, leave it square. And then we will be covering the back, this part. And right up on that chipboard. And we'll just bend that over. And then we'll cut a piece that is about 4 7/8 by 4 7/8.